with a focus on the prolific territory of Yukon. We are joined with Paul Pint. You're the investor relations consultant for White Gold Corp. My good sir, welcome.
Thank you, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being here. We're at PDAC right now, live from PDAC. And one thing I wanted to ask before we start really diving into the company itself is what initially brought you guys to the Yukon?
Yeah, so if everyone recalls, about 125 years ago, there was something called the Klondike Gold Rush. That was in this area where you see photos of, people in their pans in the riverbeds, placer mining for gold.
Yeah.
About 20 million ounces of placer gold has been found in this region. And you fast forward 100 years, there was really no modern mining techniques done on this area until Sean Ryan started looking around about 20 years ago, applying the theory that if the gold is there in the placers, it's got to come from somewhere. It didn't fall out of the sky, so where did it come from in the ground? And he applied soil geochem in particular, and then very quickly, if we go to that map, I'll show you what he found very quickly. And it was called the Golden Saddle, which is right here. A company called Inferred Resources was formed around that. And very quickly after the company was formed, they were sold for over $100 million to Kinross. Kinross is now back in as a shareholder of White Gold, and I'll get to that in a second. And so he also found the coffee deposit, which was Kaminak, that became Gold Corp, which is now Newmont.
Yeah.
And so this is a district scale region now. You can see the big players that are here. And what started White Gold in 2016 was a lot of these lands that he claimed were out with other companies, and they came back to Sean, and then he approached the Power One Capital Group. Immediately thereafter, Agnico came on as a shareholder. Kinross vended this property back in. They're a shareholder, and so is Eric Sprott. And we can talk a little more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit more about Sean Ryan really quickly, because maybe someone who's just getting into investing maybe hasn't heard that name, but this is someone who's has really made a name for himself for finding something that other people just didn't think was there.
Absolutely. And if you go, you can read all sorts of articles and see things on him. He was originally picking mushrooms, and it's a true story, and living in a shack, and he came up with this thought again to find out, where this gold had to have a source somewhere, and let's go find it. And he's had past success. And again, if you're going to invest, one, go to where the gold is. If you want to find gold, go to where they found it before. Invest with a management team and an investment team that actually has done it before, which is this whole group surrounding Sean Ryan, not only Eric Sprott, but the Power One Capital Group and other investors that have been brought in. So, and in a great jurisdiction like the Yukon, right? So, it's really a matter of when this thing's a big win. It's going to happen.
Yeah, well, why don't we skip to that? Why don't we talk about that right now? Because it is important to have those amazing investors backing a company. Can you talk about your current financial strength and some of the strategic investors that investors want to hear about?
Sure. As I mentioned early on in the process, Agnico came in just under $15 million for 19.9% of the company. They have maintained that through their pro rata issuance of cash into the company whenever the company does need money. And Kinross has done the same. They've gone down to about 15%. So the company's balance sheet is very strong. And if and when it needs dollars, those are the first two investors that come in with the money. And then others like an Eric and people like that will follow. Institutions have started to come on board. And so the balance sheet's very strong. We can also take advantage, of course, of Canada's charity flow-through option for raising money, which is very good for mining companies in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. If people don't know about flow-through shares, they absolutely should look into that. I started going to those last few years. Phenomenal what they can do. In terms of, this is a great region that we're looking at right now. In terms of some of the deposits or some of the projects that White Gold is currently going after, can you explain a few of them just so that investors get up to speed with that?
Sure. What's really unique about White Gold, and first of all, it trades at only $25 an ounce. And so it's attractive from a valuation standpoint. I know a lot of other companies are in and around that area, but certainly the majority trade above that. As I mentioned, jurisdiction. You have an existing resource, almost 1.8 million ounces and growing at about 2 grams or just north of 2 grams per ton, which is an incredible grade if you think about Canada and open pit. Yeah. And open pit actually anywhere above, anything above a gram is really good. So this is about 2 grams with great exploration upside. And if you look at something like Betty, so here's this Golden Saddle. We have the resource of 1.8 million and growing.
Yep.
And then just in the last year and a half, the company drilled at Betty. Their first hole hit 3.46 grams over 50 meters. And you think about that, that's right from surface. So what's unique about this? You get a great value in a company, amazing shareholders, strategic partners, with an existing resource of almost 2 million ounces and massive exploration upside on the largest land package in the Yukon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, A question I know that I've got to ask, I already know your answer, but the fact that you guys currently have 1.8 million in indicated ounces of gold while sitting at a market cap of around 55 million, do you believe right now it's safe to say that you're undervalued as a company?
Absolutely. I would say that versus the peer group for sure. And you have to take in all those other situations like the grade, the size of the exploration opportunity, the jurisdiction, the management team who's done it before, having someone like Sean Ryan in there, having, again, the strategic investors. I think all this packages together for a great investment opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate all this. And I have one more question for you. For investors who ask themselves, okay, this looks very interesting, but what are the next steps? What should I be excited about in the very near future? What would you have to say to that?
Great question. Sometime during the first half of this year, before June for sure, there'll be an updated resource out. And that'll take into some of the land to the west of the Golden Saddle. So, again, watch for this resource to grow. And then again, more exploration upside as the drills start to hit the ground again in May up in the Yukon.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, I appreciate it very much for your time. And for those who want to find out some more information, or maybe they're here at PDAC right now, where can they find you?
Booth 3028. And just so you guys know, on Tuesday at 4 p.m., there'll be a raffle happening. Drop your business card in the ring. It's for 2 gold coins.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your time.